Today, in the second episode of the series, we will continue the story of Arthur, so stick around with us, and let's jump into the story. Arthur adamantly refused to escape, and instead confronted his father, asserting his ability and determination to fight alongside and support them. His father revealed the underlying reason for wanting Arthur to protect her. She was pregnant. Suddenly, everything became clear to Arthur. He understood his previous behavior throughout their journey, and now accepted his mission without hesitation. Meanwhile, their adversaries realized Alice's healing abilities, prompting their boss to order her capture. As Arthur and his mother fled, a bandit leaped toward them, but Adam intervened just in time. To maintain their momentum, an archer took shots at them from a distance. In a daring move, Arthur managed to intercept an arrow while sacrificing his sword. The archer, astonished by the act of kindness, hesitated in his attack. Seizing the opportunity, Helen swiftly eliminated him with an arrow. Arthur and his mother resumed their escape, but Arthur couldn't shake off a nagging feeling. The bandits were supposed to have 4 mages, yet he only spotted 3. Where was the last one? Upon reaching the mountain's summit, they encountered a waterbender who cast a menacing spell. Arthur possessed the power to counter the attack using mana, but his mother couldn't react swiftly enough. Making a selfless decision, Arthur resolved to sacrifice himself to save her. However, he vowed that he wouldn't fall alone. Just before the spell struck, he imbued his knife with a strand of mana and surprisingly managed to strike down the spellcaster. Desperately clinging to a rock, the enemy attempted to evade the fall but failed. The giant attempted to rescue Arthur using his magical rock but couldn't reach them in time. Arthur found solace in knowing that everyone else would survive, yet he couldn't shake the sadness of not being there as an older brother. As he plummeted, glimpses of his past life flickered before him. His previous world was fraught with problems: diminishing birth rates, scarce resources, and wars replaced by mourning and power struggles among kings. Gray, his adoptive father, held the title of king, but the true rulers were the council members who governed the country's politics and economy. Fed up with this system, Arthur abdicated the throne, dedicating his life to becoming the strongest. But why? Ultimately, he remained an orphan who had lost everything he held dear. If given the chance, he would relinquish it all to return to Asper and be reunited with everyone. However, he knew this was impossible. This seemed like the end, or perhaps it wasn't, as Arthur miraculously survived the fall. Unfortunately, the bandit's luck didn't fare as well. Injured and disoriented, he managed to find some meager nourishment and water before closing his eyes to rest, unaware of his location. Upon awakening, he experienced improved well-being and regained the ability to stand upright. He retrieved the functioning items and, upon reflecting on the recent events, he found it unbelievable that he had survived such a significant fall. Unaware of the elapsed time or his whereabouts, his only option was to press onward. During his journey, he discerned a jubilant voice expressing delight at his awakening and inquired about his well-being. Despite the absence of any visible presence, save for the bandit's lifeless body nearby, he grew apprehensive and cautiously checked to determine if the bandit still clung to life. Although Arthur felt relieved, he realized the unfamiliarity of the voice and adopted a defensive stance. He questioned the identity of the speaker and whether they were responsible for saving him. The voice confirmed the rescue, but insisted that Arthur would only discover her identity upon reaching his destination. Curious about the rationale for obedience, Arthur demanded an explanation. The voice asserted that she was the sole individual capable of guiding him home. Consequently, Arthur adjusted his attitude and engaged in a more respectful conversation, which pleased the voice. In response, she offered to show him the way. Now aware of the path to follow, he wasted no time and commenced his journey promptly, recognizing that the woods were safer during daylight. Along the way, Arthur contemplated the type of magic she might have employed to save him. Furthermore, he pondered why she possessed knowledge of their intended landing spot, and why she had solely rescued him. The more he ruminated, the more questions arose. As Arthur continued his trek, he stumbled upon a river and couldn't resist savoring its tranquility for a moment. The voice chided him for his recklessness, causing Arthur to promptly cover himself. However, the voice assured him that there was nothing noteworthy to observe. Though his pride suffered, he reminded himself that a king must always remain composed and calm. Finally arriving at the correct location, Arthur greeted the massive mountain, perplexed by the voice's welcoming words. The voice clarified that she was not a mere collection of rocks, prompting Arthur to enter the cave. After a slight stumble, he finally encountered his savior. Intimidating in appearance, she was a Picas. As she approached, Arthur couldn't help but feel afraid and instinctively recoiled. However, her intention was to heal him. She revealed her plan to create a potent dimensional portal that would transport him home, acknowledging that it would require a considerable amount of time. In the meantime, he could nourish himself with the plants and spices she had in her possession. Despite her horrifying appearance, appearance, she proved to be kind-hearted. Arthur inquired about her name, learning that she was called Sylvia. Intrigued, he bombarded her with numerous questions, to which she gladly responded. Curiosity piqued, he asked their current whereabouts. Sylvia disclosed that they were situated in a secluded area between the clearing of beasts and the forest. This region remained unknown to others due to her unwavering protection. Arthur's next question focused on her solitary existence. She existed in solitude due to the absence of companionship. Numerous adversaries relentlessly pursued her, and in her previous skirmish, they inflicted severe injuries upon her while she made her escape. Lastly, when questioned about why she had saved him, she honestly couldn't provide a definitive answer. Perhaps it was due to his selflessness and bravery that moved her, or simply because she felt lonely. Now she withdraws from her duties and tends to her wounds, intending to commence work on the portal tomorrow. However, before departing, she assures him that his loved ones and friends are safe and advises him not to worry. Over time, their relationship grows stronger. When Sylvia isn't occupied with the portal, they share meals, engage in play, or simply converse. Despite her seemingly devilish appearance, she possesses kindness and gentleness. Nevertheless, she reprimands him when he errs, much like a caring mother would, as exemplified by a particular instance when Arthur expressed his deep-seated hatred for the bandits and his strong desire for their demise. Sylvia strikes him, but she acknowledges his righteousness, acknowledging that the bandits deserve to perish. However, she warns him against allowing hatred and thoughts of vengeance to consume his mind, as they can ultimately ruin his life. Hours turn into days, and days into weeks. Sylvia's wound appears to worsen over time, yet she assures him that it is normal and nothing to fret about. She ponders over his core, as humans typically develop theirs at the age of 12 or 13. Why is this the case? A proud Arthur proclaims himself a genius, prompting Sylvia to suggest that he may learn from this experience. It revolves around absorbing mana while in motion. Although Arthur excels in combat, he struggles to comprehend how he is capable of such a feat. Sylvia explains that humans have a limited understanding of mana due to their linear way of thinking. Beasts, on the other hand, naturally grasp it. Humans take a long time to awaken this ability, hindering their ability to fully comprehend it. However, Arthur appears to be an exception, offering a glimmer of hope. Filled with excitement, he embarks on practice sessions, only to discover that it proves more challenging than anticipated. Yet, with perseverance, he eventually succeeds. The dilemma lies in conveying this accomplishment to Sylvia, who suddenly collapses onto the ground, immersed in a pool of blood. Arthur rushes to her aid, unable to fathom the severity of her deteriorating wound. As he gazes at the completed portal, realization dawns upon him. Sylvia is sacrificing herself to create the portal. Amidst Arthur's panic, Sylvia urges him to remain calm and cease shedding tears. Their time together is limited, and there is no point in wasting it by blaming himself. However, Arthur struggles with the notion, for Sylvia is on the brink of death solely to assist him. Sylvia counters, expressing gratitude for the opportunity to depart the cave more swiftly. Revealing her true form, she discloses that she is a dragon. Arthur is left speechless, overwhelmed by a torrent of unanswered questions. However, time is of the essence. Sylvia presents him with what appears to be an egg and a feather to conceal his aura. Placing her hand upon his chest, intricate markings materialize on his hands. Sylvia asserts that everything will be unveiled at the appropriate moment. The portal is ready, although she lacks the time to transport him directly to his home. Nevertheless, he should be able to reach a location inhabited by fellow humans. Abruptly, fragments started descending while an eerie voice resonated through the air. An individual had materialized to seize Sylvia. It was another Pekka. In response, Sylvia cast a spell that seemingly halted time, apologizing to Arthur for her actions. In truth, she had deliberately prolonged the creation of the portal to spend more time with him. As a final request, she implored him to address her as Grandma. Tearfully, Arthur urged her to forget that idea and take advantage of the frozen moment to escape. He no longer dwelled on the past. However, Sylvia insisted that she couldn't abandon him and pushed him towards the portal. As Arthur watched Sylvia recede into the distance, he called out to her, "Grandma," prompting her to express gratitude and happiness for everything. Arthur found himself in an unfamiliar location, lying on the ground with little motivation to rise. His thoughts were melancholic, reflecting on the 4 months he had spent with Sylvia. Yet her voice stirred something within him. She had survived, in a way, not physically present, but through a message she had left behind. Frustratingly, Sylvia claimed that he wasn't ready for the truth. Despite possessing a child's body and a core tinged with dark red, Arthur lacked the necessary strength. Before her demise, Sylvia bequeathed him a special gift, her unique will. She emphasized that his growth as a magician depended on how skillfully he utilized her gift. Although Arthur remained indifferent, his only desire was for Sylvia to be alive. She She could perceive his emotional turmoil, pain, anger, guilt, but she reminded him of his familial responsibilities and his purpose. The only request she made was for him to become a man who would make both her and his parents proud. Furthermore, she assured him that he would receive more information once his core transitioned beyond the white phase. At that moment, she would explain everything. However, the most astounding revelation came with her goodbye, as she addressed him as King Gray. Now, Arthur was overwhelmed with questions. How long had she known his true identity? How had she discovered it? Yet he understood that obtaining answers was futile. Instead, he chose to stand up and explore the forest, his mind brimming with inquiries. Ascending to the top of a tree, he realized he was within Elshire Forest. Sylvia had promised to send him somewhere close to humans, so he couldn't fathom why he had ended up there. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, compelling Arthur to rush forward. It must be humans! Peering down from his vantage point, he caught sight of their carriage, and stroke of luck, perhaps. He entertained the idea of befriending them. However, as he approached, a disconcerting sensation gripped him. He listened carefully, and his suspicions were confirmed. They were slave traders. They reveled in their recent capture. A young female elf, a highly prized commodity in the market, particularly if she was a virgin. Anger surged through Arthur, but he deliberated before taking action. Engaging 4 adversaries simultaneously posed a challenge, even for him. Thus, he chose to tail them, biding his time, replenishing his energy, and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Night fell, and the decisive moment had arrived. Arthur retrieved a peculiar seed and hurled it, creating a diversion for the magical wolves accompanying the kidnappers, although they resembled deer. The wolves became frenzied, precisely as he had intended. Seizing the chance, one of the captors ventured out to calm the chaos. Armed with nothing but his mana, Arthur resorted to a technique from his previous world, uncertain if it would succeed. Fortunately, it did. Crafted from his mana, he conjured a magical knife. Silently descending from the tree, he swiftly eliminated the individual, catching him before he made a sound, and expressed gratitude for the weapon. Now the wolves took care of the body. Time passed, and the second kidnapper grew impatient, venturing out to investigate the delay. The sight that greeted him left him speechless, Arthur standing before him. Though weary from his previous encounter, he knew he had to deal with the remaining assailants.